Well, one of the things that I did on this Colorado trip, so last Colorado trip, at the end of the trip, I thought, man, it felt like two people came up to me at every gas station to ask about the bike. I should have kept track of how many people came up to talk to me. So this trip, 14 days, most of which I spent high up in the mountains, 42 different people came up and asked me about the bike or came up and said, that is a cool looking bike.
I had stopped for lunch in a tiny mountain town here in Colorado when he rode up on this unbelievable motorcycle. I know that my first words to Charlie was, wow, followed by, what kind of motorcycle is that? He briefly described how this bike was handcrafted in Indiana with some of the fabrication done by the local Amish community. Yes, you heard that right. The same Amish folks that you see using buggies pulled by horses for transportation. You talk about beautiful and a well-made machine. Well, I had to get to know this guy and beg for a chance to ride this Janus Motorcycle. That's spelled Janus, a bike like I've never seen outside of a history book. Not only did I get to spend an afternoon riding with Charlie high up in the mountains where we crossed the Continental Divide twice, he let me ride it. Oh, that was cool. So I am so excited today to share with you an interview with my new friend, Charlie Hansen-Reed, design engineer at Janus Motorcycles out of Goshen, Indiana. This was a fun conversation. I know you'll enjoy it. Stay tuned. Recorded in beautiful Loveland, Colorado. Welcome to Peace, Love, Moto, the podcast for motorcyclists seeking that peaceful, easy feeling as we cruise through this life together. Are you ready? Let's go. Well, I am so especially excited today to have with me Charlie Hansen-Reed, who is the designer and chief engineer. Is that how you describe yourself, Charlie, at Janus Motorcycles?
Design engineer, manufacturing engineer. Yeah. How are you doing, Ron? Having a good day?
Oh, it's been a good day. Now I say that. Now it's kind of rainy outside. I still may find myself out on the bike this afternoon.
Yeah. Fall has just fallen here in Indiana. So it's just starting to be like, it was 38 this morning when I got up, starting to be a little cold for motorcycling.
Yeah, getting that way. But I personally, I invested in some warm gear, some Gerbring electric stuff a few years back.
Yeah.
Holy smoke. That's a game changer.
Yeah. My strategy is to live 90 seconds away from work, so just tough it out. That's
nice. Well, Charlie, you and I met one weekend, and then the following weekend we made arrangements to get together and go for a ride. But I'll just, for my listeners, I'll just describe how we met. So I was actually in my Jeep. I wasn't on a motorcycle. I was in my Jeep way out in the country, about 50 miles roughly from Fort Collins, Colorado, out west on Highway 14. And so we're sitting out there having lunch, and all of a sudden this bike rides up. And this is like, wow, are you kidding? Well, this is amazing. What is this? Is this like a 1920s track bike? What is this? And then you were peppered with questions, not only from me, but from a lot of other people that were just walking up. So do you mind describing, again, what in the heck were you riding and what do you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So I work for a company called Janus Motorcycles. We're a small, about 25-person company in northern Indiana in Goshen, so about 40 minutes east of South Bend or 2 hours east of Chicago, right on 80. And we hand make bespoke American motorcycles, about 300 bikes a year. So we're really kind of riding that between a guy who builds 5 bikes a year in his garage and a full-scale manufacturing, production company. Really getting the best of both worlds. Really beautiful, handmade, bespoke bikes made specially for you, and that personal touch talking with real people, and but having a reliability of a mass manufactured motorcycle.
That is just completely amazing. We're going to circle back to this conversation, but we're going to talk about the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride and how that is a narrow band of audience that works well for the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, because they're talking about modern classics there, modern classics or real classics. And your bike is it, man. I mean, it fits the description of what is written in the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride just right off the bat. And for those listening that want to participate or have participated in the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride before, and if you need a bike, here's a guy who can get you a bike. That is a perfect fit.
Yeah, you will turn some heads at a DGR with a Janus.
Oh, no kidding. Well, let's talk about the bike just a bit. The bikes, you have multiple models. On your, I think it's on the About section of the JanusMotorcycles.com site, it says it's for riders who are looking for a closer connection with their machine. Interesting.
I feel that really kind of encapsulates what we do. If we're cherry picking a single line off the website, you did a pretty good job for picking a Janus Motorcycles one.
What does that mean to you? What is this closer connection with your machine?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So Janus is part of what really drew me to Janus, and I think what draws our customers to Janus is it's a really stripped down riding experience. You should, if you're listening to this, you should check out our bikes on our website. See, part of it is that they're absolutely gorgeous bikes, but they're very lightweight, very small, and they don't have ABS or, even the 250 doesn't even have a tachometer. It's just a raw, visceral riding experience, which I absolutely love. And I think we get a lot of people who buy Januses for their first bikes saying, this is what I want. I want a bike that looks like this and rides like this, and you can feel the road. And we get a lot of people who buy Januses as their last bike. They say, I've ridden lots and lots of stuff, and all I want is just a motorcycle. I want to ride, and I want it to be pretty, and I want it to not think about, the 4x6-inch display on the front or automatic canceling turn signals. Like, I want to be the person that pushes the buttons and twists the throttle and works the bike. So having that, that combination of such a beautiful bike that you can really become personally invested in. I mean, it's like a special possession, an heirloom quality possession, and having such a raw and visceral riding experience, something that you can be really comfortable on being so light. It's not like a Goldwing where you're always a little bit nervous when you're under 15 miles an hour. It's just you're one with the bike, and that's what I love about it. You probably, when we went for that ride that second weekend, you saw me in tune with that bike. I've been living on it for a week and was really feeling it. And I think that sums Janus up, and it's just what I love about Janus.
And for our listeners to know, I rode it too. We were there and I said, Charlie, you hop on my bike if you'll let me hop on yours for just a short ride around there. But I felt it too. It was great. And Charlie, one thing that didn't come up in our previous conversations, when we met twice, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. I don't think I told you that I have a 1926 Ford Model T in my garage.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. And that's kind of the same thing, visceral riding experience.
Exactly. I mean, it's got the wood floorboard where you can see the ground when you're driving that thing. And, I hadn't thought about it until just now, but that experience on your Janus bike and my driving of the Model T, I feel the same thing. It's like this oneness with this raw machine.
There's nothing between you and the road. It just feels like a homogenous thing, you and a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I do too. That's really cool. I didn't make the connection in my mind until just now. Yeah, that's a close connection there. Another wow moment came up for me when I learned, either from you or from your website or YouTube videos that I've watched. Tell me about the Amish connection now. I mean, so we're talking about Goshen, Indiana, and then you've got a an Amish connection there. Can you describe that?
Yeah, we are really in the heart of Amish country. I mean, sitting here, I'm sitting in my living room on a busy street right now, and through the course of this, I might hear the clip clop of a buggy going past in front of the house. It's a definite possibility. But the Amish in this area, the colony in this area, has some pretty liberal rules for Amish people. And one of those things is that they can have fabrication businesses. So there are a lot of Amish machine shops and fabrication shops and, powder coating, sandblasting, polishing, all that stuff on our bikes is done entirely by Amish labor. So, it's kind of going back to that visceral experience. We're stripping emails out of the out of the mix, right? If you want to fix a part that was wrong, you got to get in a van or a motorcycle and ride out into the country and knock on somebody's door. And
I didn't think about that.
Hey, I printed out this picture and I drew on it with a Sharpie. Here you go. So it makes things a little more difficult sometimes, but I think the advantage for the final bike is that everything is really well made and made in an old school kind of way. So instead of using a stamped metal piece, we use a bent tube and sheet metal welded together or things like that. So it's really I say heirloom quality, like something that you wouldn't throw it away. You would weld it up and fix it and pass it down to your kids, that kind of thing. And it's brought to you in a large part by Amish labor.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing. And this, you mentioned family heirloom. This is a custom bike for the person who ordered it, right? Yeah. Do you mind describing that process?
Yeah, so at 300 bikes a year too, which is quite a few. They're really bespoke, so nothing gets started on the bike until you place an order. So on our website, we have a configurator, but the amount of options are pretty staggering. You say, I want one pinstripe, or I want two pinstripes, or I want one. I think we have 10 standard colors, and we can do you any custom color in the book if you ask for it. So any RGB code, pretty much, for some extra money, but 10 standard colors is pretty impressive for, I don't know any other manufacturer that has 10 colors. Yeah. It might be more than that now too, but all of these different options, there's probably 200 different choices in that drop-down list of things you can add and colors you can change and everything. So you place that order on the phone or on the internet or in person, and then we get started on your bike. And 4 to 6 weeks later, you got a motorcycle that was made entirely for you and ready to be picked up.
No kidding. So in my garage also is a Triumph Bonneville, and it's a new one. But one of the things I've been so impressed about the Bonneville is a signature. If you take the seat off and you look at the base of the gas tank, is the initials of the guy or gal who pinstriped it.
Yeah.
And as I've seen on your videos, you have someone also who is the hand painter, pinstriper.
And it's actually an option we will do if you ask for it. I don't even think we charge for it, but if you really want it, everybody that put hands on your bike to assemble it will sign the chain guard before we ship it to you. Oh, so there are some people that have chain guards with a dozen signatures on them. That's the whole production crew in Janus signed their name on the bike, like sealed it, it's really cool. It's like a record of employees too. You can look at somebody's bike and say oh, that's when Kevin used to work here or whatever. Yeah.
Well, you're not going to sign something that you're not proud of, right?
Yep. Literally putting everybody's name on it.
That's fantastic. That's so cool. Well, as far as the company goes, what's the brief history? Now, my understanding is it started off with some guys that were fascinated either by scooters or motorized bicycles, something like that, and it just took off from there. Is that right?
Yeah. Our model lines are pretty small displacement. I mean, for the American market, 250 and 450cc are the current engine sizes we have. And really, that's that moped lineage coming out. Richard, our co-founder, bought a moped to ride around in college and loved it. And started working with a guy who owned a moped shop, and that kind of bloomed into, hey, we should make our own motorcycle. And that was in 2011, so it's been 12 years now we've been a company. But our first model was a 50cc single-cylinder, two-stroke, water-cooled, 6-speed, like a motorcycle, but kind of a moped. And then we went to the 250 and really started producing bikes in 2016 or 2015. And then the 450 was the main bike that I worked on starting 3 years ago. That's our new release. And that's the bike I was riding in Colorado when we met.
Yeah. Well, tell me more about that then too, about how you got connected with this organization. So you're an engineering background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I went to Duke University in North Carolina for mechanical engineering. And my junior year, I was looking for an internship, and somehow I saw an ad for Janus. I can't remember. We talked about it a little bit. I was thinking maybe I was looking up stuff about Steve McQueen and scramblers, and like a sponsored ad from Janus came up on Google, and it was like there's a big photo of the Griffin bike is the scrambler we have, the Griffin 250, and it's just a show-stopping bike. It's not even my favorite of the ones we have, but like I saw that photo and I was like, wow, that's a cool bike. I'm gonna look at that. I don't know anything about motorcycles, but I'm gonna click on that link. And then started reading in the about section, talked about 85% of the parts we make or that go on a bike are made within 15 miles of where my desk is. And I read that quote on the website. I remember it. And I was like, that is a place that I want to work at. Like they do everything in-house and they're in control of the whole, production and manufacturing. So I was sold after doing some Googling, and then I cold emailed them for an internship and didn't get it. They weren't doing an internship. And then the next year I thought, oh, well, I'm looking for a job now. I might just send them an email. And it was just perfect timing. They said, we just had an opening, haven't even posted anything yet. And I stopped in for an interview, and the rest is history. That was 3 years ago now.
Oh, cool. I just want to say, too, for those who may be just listening on one of the streaming services like Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, one of those, who don't know what we're talking about, pause that. Or pause this and go out to janusmotorcycles.com or just Google it somewhere, and you're going to see what we're talking about. This is a unique, cool motorcycle.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of the things that I did on this Colorado trip, so last Colorado trip, at the end of the trip, I thought, man, it felt like 2 people came up to me at every gas station to ask about the bike. I should have kept track of how many people came up to talk to me. So this trip, 14 days, most of which I spent high up in the mountains, 42 different people came up and asked me about the bike, or came up and said, that is a cool looking bike.
Yeah. Let's kind of get back to where we got a chance to visit again. So we met that first time in the little mountain town of Rustic up there, and made arrangements to, I got in contact with your office. They put me in contact with you, and I found you. And I found out where you were nearby, still not too far from my house. So we ended up meeting over at the Copper Mountain ski area, which, still summertime. So we got a chance to meet over there. And then you and I just, we had lunch, but then we just had the most fun after that. We rode not only over the Continental Divide, which is Loveland Pass, we rode under it too.
Yep, came back.
So we turned around. I was going to ask you, Charlie, I knew you were using your camera. You had your 360 camera.
Yeah.
And other stuff. Have you had a chance to put that together? Because if you have, I sure want to see it.
Yeah. So I have a pretty good deal here where I just have to film and then I don't have to edit anything.
Okay.
One of the co-owners of the company, Jordan, he does all our editing for us. So he's the guy that you got to put pressure on.
Okay.
They've been so busy. They just went out and we're doing a big custom shoot with a bike in Minnesota with the leaves turning colors and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Pack. Yeah. So those green pack bags I had on the bike, we did a custom bike for them and a whole video shoot and everything. So he's been very busy, and I talked to him about it this afternoon, and he said he hasn't touched it in 2 weeks. So it's going to be a ways, but I'll definitely send you a link when it's ready.
Oh, I'd appreciate that. It may not, it may be a combination of an advertisement for Janus Motorcycles as well as BMW, because I was on my BMW GS adventure in there, and I was following you most all the time, and it occurred to me a few times like, hey, I might be in this video. So I stood up on the pegs a few times here and there. Maybe I'll show up in there, but that was just so much fun too. I mean, just the whole experience. And then we came back to a coffee shop, got a chance to visit some more and talk some more. And
it's just a spectacular late summer day for it too. Really couldn't have asked for better weather. Beautiful ride. It
was just great. So kind of speaking of that, when I don't know what I said when you rode up and I was sitting outside that little cafe at Rustic. Wow was probably one of the first things that I said. But, this may be a poor analogy, but When say it anyway. So back in the day when Christy Brinkley was married to Billy Joel, both very famous people, I'd almost guarantee you that when Christy Brinkley and Billy Joel walked into a room, all eyes were on Christy. Because this was the beauty. This is the knockout. And I can't help but think when you're riding up or you're with a group of other bikes, all eyes are on that Janus motorcycle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What kind of reactions do you get?
Yeah, I mean, 42 people this time, so I got a pretty good spread of things to pick from. I think probably the number one thing that people say is like, you get an old motorcycle guy who comes up and he says, "What year is that thing?" That is like almost the number one question. What year is that? And I love looking at their face when I say it's a 2022 or something. What? So it was an old Harley that you fixed up or something. Get a lot. I mean, really the compliments on the looks are the thing. There's hardly any times, even here in my hometown where there are bikes everywhere. Like I stopped for gas this morning and a guy pulled up next to me. He's like, "That's a beautiful bike, man." And like, it's just you've heard of the Ural effect. It's the Janus effect. You got to add 10 minutes to every gas stop to talk to people about the bike. I always stuff my saddlebag full of brochures when I leave on a trip like that. And I was out within 5 days this time.
Yeah. You gave me one. And for those that are just listening, we are on camera together, by the way. Here it is. This is the one you gave me.
Tattered.
A little tattered. That's right. Because we were in a massive rainstorm right after that. But this is the one that you gave me that first day that we met. And that was just great. Which is a little bit of a segue to one of the last things I was going to ask you about. Back to the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. Mm-hmm. And talking about too that absolutely love the cause of the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. And I've mentioned on this podcast any number of times, I think, that the core of what this podcast is all about is the principles of the DGR, of the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. The Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, for those who don't know or who haven't listened to a previous podcast where I describe it, it's a once-a-year fundraiser on behalf of what's called the Movember Foundation. Some people haven't heard of Movember, but they've heard of No Shave November, which is associated with that. The Distinguished Gentleman's Ride was started by a fellow out of Australia named Mark Hawa, who just kind of came up with the idea of, hey, let's get like-minded motorcyclists together and let's spend a little time together and maybe raise some money for a really good cause. So specifically for Movember, they raise money for prostate cancer research and men's suicide prevention. So it's focused on men's there, but ladies are very, very much involved. It's a tremendous event. It's a little bit of, and even though over 100,000 riders have participated in the last few years anyway, and it's just growing exponentially, it is a narrow scope in that it is tailored to folks who are riding unique motorcycles. That is vintage or modern classics and modern classics motorcycles. And as we've talked before, Janus is perfect. That is the perfect vehicle for the DGR. And I know you guys have been involved. We were talking a little bit about that. And again, if you go to the janusmotorcycles.com website, you'll see a picture or two there about the DGR. So do you mind describing that, your association?
Yeah.
DGR?
I was thinking the first time we met and you were talking about the DGR, I knew we would get along because that's it just really aligns with Janus very well too. You know, it's kind of a quirky group of people and very, very positive, and that's kind of how we are. So Janus has done a lot of DGRs. I think, you know, we didn't do COVID or the year after that, but I think the shop's been going for 10 years. It used to be everybody would grab bikes and they'd ride to the Chicago one. But this year we did the South Bend one. We've done a couple ones, but they really do fit in so well. There's a photo every year. We everybody dresses up and we take a photo on all the demo bikes in the shop.
Yeah.
Just an awesome photo. It lines up so well, and you know, we really enjoy doing it. I think kind of Janus customers are definitely a demographic that are interested in the DGR.
Yeah.
It's like I said, you know, a quirky. I feel like it's a younger crowd also than the average American motorcyclist, and fits in really well. We enjoyed it. I think this year we raised 10 grand on our team, you know, for having people sign up. Yeah, or maybe it was 5 grand, but yep.
That's so awesome. I've described the DGR as being an event where you can walk up and give a hug to a total stranger and then say, hello, by the way, my name's Ron.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a like-minded type of thing. But the tricky part for many is having the right bike, because it's narrow and unique for a reason, although it is made available, you know, and on an exception basis for folks riding other bikes. But I would say that anybody who learns about the DGR or has seen it before and has a desire to participate, and you really want to turn heads, you need to go and visit janusmotorcycles.com or give them a call. Let's do this quick plug here too, because we were talking a little bit earlier about your sales person.
Oh yeah.
We need to give a shout out for it, and I'm gonna have it in the podcast notes also. But do you mind just doing a shout out to who?
Yeah, sure. I have to. Yeah. So one of the special things about Janus, we're a small company, really American-made motorcycles, personal touch. You know, we don't have a sales department really. It's Mitch McLean is his name. If you're interested in a Janus bike, like, you don't have to know anything. You can just call his number and say, hey, Mitch, I'm interested in a bike. And he will walk you through everything, picking colors and everything. So Mitch McLean's his name. 463-215-2220 is the number you would call if you wanted to talk to Mitch. He told me, I was just at the bar with him before we recorded this, and he told me that if you call him up and he says hello and you just say yippee-ki-yay, he'll give you $200 off a bike. He's a big diehard fan, so.
That's great. That's awesome. I love that. Again, I'll put this in the notes in the description of the podcast, but that's fantastic. Well, your company has certainly gotten some well-deserved recognition, and one of them was from Jay Leno. So if anyone's a big fan of Jay's Garage, like I am, you'll find Janus Motorcycles on Jay's Garage, and Jay goes for a ride on one, right?
Oh, he sure does. Yeah. Yeah. That was, I believe we had the Halcyon 250 and the Phoenix 250, 2 models that we brought out to him. And then this last 2 years ago came out with our next engine size. So maybe we'll be on there again sometime soon for the new model.
I hope so. Well, what you do, Charlie, is a good thing. It's such a positive thing. It's not many people have a job where you're going out and creating something that's visually amazing, but you're creating something that you're handing off to somebody else that brings a lot of smiles, and it will for a long, long time. And that's awesome.
We don't have the most horsepower or the, you know, your classic V-twin, but smiles per miles, we are up there.
Love it. I love it. And that's what it's all about, right? I mean, it's one thing to it's one thing to go big and fast, but it's another thing just to have a big old smile on your face going down the road with other people looking at you as well. I don't know if it happens to you as well sometimes, but when my wife and we'll take our dog with us, when we're driving down the road just here in town at 25 miles an hour in our Ford Model T, I'll glance to my left and there's somebody who's driving right beside me. But I look over, they're holding up a camera. And then they've got a big smile on their face, and then we'll give them the auga horn. But I would imagine it's the same thing with you. You wonder, why in the world is this guy following me? Well,
for sure, without a doubt.
Well, Charlie, I can't wait to see you again. I'd really personally love to go out to your site sometime. My daughter and her husband are now kind of living out that direction. In that direction. So I'd like to find myself out there to visit with you again.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
Yeah. Well, again, for all of our listeners, Charlie is a wonderful guy, and he represents a really, really good company that's got a really big heart. So go out to janusmotorcycles.com and check it out.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Ron.
Thank you, man. And I look forward to not only seeing you again, but to take another little ride.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I'll show you my stomping grounds out here next time.
Fantastic. Thanks again.
Well, that concludes my interview with Charlie Hansen-Reed, a heck of a nice guy, as you heard, at Janus Motorcycles, and creating a lot of smiles, one handcrafted motorcycle at a time. For more information, go out to janusmotorcycles.com, that's Janus motorcycles.com, or contact Mitch, Charlie, and the gang at Janus at area code 574-538-1350. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy this type of podcast, thanks in advance for telling your friends. So until we meet again, I wish you peace, I wish you love,